Well, yeah, I mean, we have these press conferences on Tuesday, so you're trying to get ready for your next game, but we still want to. I do want to make a comment of how proud I am of our players for that hard-fought game with Kent State and the overtime victory. It was one of those games that, as they all have been pretty much since I've been here, have gone down to the wire, and you've had to win on the last series or lose on the last series. And so I'm awful proud of our players for the job that they did going over there to their stadium and winning that game. Our rivalry game is important. Everywhere I've ever been, it's important. This one is extremely important to our fans, to our alumni, to our former players, and to this team. And my hat's off especially to our seniors who are able to say they never lost to Kent State, and they've had that wagon wheel here the entire time that they've played, and I'm awful proud for that and for them. That being said, it gets us back in the win side or off the slide, or however they say that when you had a couple of losses or in-conference losses, and gets us back on the win side, but it just gets us in a position to now tackle the next game that we have at hand, which is Central Michigan. So we have already begun preparing hard. We had a good practice today. We'll continue to practice this week and try to get ready for a Central Michigan team. And I will say this, Central Michigan has about the same record that Kent State had. And Kent State, we took us to a overtime missed extra point for us to win. Central Michigan is very, very much just as good as Kent State, if not better. They have had a tough schedule. They've lost some close games, and they are very, very capable. This conference is amazing. As I look down the schedule, Buffalo's one of the top teams, and yet we're sitting there in the third quarter. If we just don't make some mistakes, we're going to take this thing and have a chance to be in a position to win the thing. But they did what they've been doing all year, is winning those type of ball games, and Kent State and Central and on and on. So this game's we look for a very, very tough, difficult team in Central Michigan. Their defense has been very, very good. Offensively, they've tried to find themselves. I'm hoping they haven't found it totally just yet, because they started out doing certain things, and we've noticed through the season they've moved to something else, and they are having some success in games in the last 3 or 4 games that getting some offense generated, which I'm sure that's the biggest thing they want to do, because they have been playing defense, I think, well enough to win, and their offense is coming along. So we've got to be exceptionally well, play exceptionally well, and prepare exceptionally well for this game, and continue to make improvements. And I'll open up for questions. Mm-hmm.
It was one of those typical emotions.
Right.
Last play of the game. So how do you temper the emotion but keep the momentum that allows you to go forward?
You know, I don't know. That's a whole difficult philosophical thing to talk about. I mean, how do you temper the excitement of one game and still motivate them for the next? You know, these guys, their goal, they met one of their goals last week: win your rival game. You know, we have other goals that we haven't gotten yet. You know, and whether we're still mathematically in the hunt for the conference, we've got to do some. The other teams have to help us out there. But bowl eligibility and those things are critical to the dreams and desires of our team, the goals of our team. And so and it's always this way. I was talking to our team today after practice. With 5 games left, usually there's 6 games or whatever. I mean, nothing's been decided. Nothing at all has been decided on our schedule, on our conference, and or where we're going or what kind of year. And so it's all still out there. So you have to stay motivated. You have to stay focused on the importance of the season. Now, this is one of those conferences where nothing is decided until November, not even in October. I don't think things are really decided in this conference till November. For most all of our teams who desire to have winning records, to go to bowls, to win their division, all those things don't get decided early because of just the nature of our non-conference schedule, the equity, the equality of talent and abilities in our league, and so it's I don't think there's any problem getting our kids to be ready to prepare for this game. They have a good team. We've got to play our best, because that's the only way we can win, if we play our best focus on what we do of playing our best. We have to assume they're going to bring their very best. Would I love them to turn the ball over a bunch? Yeah, and not play great? Yeah, it'd be great. But we have to assume they're going to play their best, so we must take care of what we do and play our best. I don't think we'll have any problem because we are. If we just beaten them, we were sitting on an undefeated season and won all of our conference games. You've got to really be careful that you start thinking you're much better than we are. But we're playing tight ball games, and we've still got improvement to make. And we ran the ball a little better Saturday, but a lot of that was from our quarterback, And so but it was a miserable day out there for executing offense. You couldn't throw deep. You couldn't execute deep ball very well, and you couldn't throw the ball very well. And quarterbacks had to be very involved in the running game. So. But we've got plenty of incentive and plenty of motivation to be. We should be totally prepared to play this Saturday. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I don't know what the ideal running average is for him. But I think he had an outstanding football game. I mean, would he have thrown? I think with a better day, he would have thrown better than 52%. I'd like to see him around 60% there. But with the type of weather that we had, I'm not complaining at all about that. He made a huge run that threw his running average up, probably more than we need him to run average-wise. But he left a little room for improvement. But I thought as far as the game. He played a pretty full, pretty complete football game. The biggest thing that I thought is that there were times he came off that field and his head hit the ground or he got banged pretty good, and I saw a competitiveness and a leadership and a desire not to do whatever it took to win. There were many third down scrambles that he made that he knew he had to make 10 yards or 11 yards, and he was not going to lay on the ground. He was going to find a way to dive through and get hit and make that. So I was very, very, and a lot of that was just in keeping them off the field and keeping the ball in our hands. But I just saw a lot of things out of him from a competitive standpoint that made me awful proud. He's a very likable quarterback anyway. You love coaching him because he's fun to coach. He's a good person. But there was an effort Saturday that made me very, very proud of him because it was clear that he was not going to let his teammates down no matter how. And he got a couple times he had to have his helmet off and be stopped. It was those little black beads that are in that turf that was getting in his eyes. I don't know if you know if you've ever been on an AstroTurf, they put those little rubber beads, so every time he'd slide and get tackled, they'd pop up and they'd pop in his eyes, and twice he had to get those little things removed out of his eyes. It wasn't like he was he got hurt or something, but he was not going to be taken out of that game. And I know one snap, because his helmet came off, he had to come out for one play.
Obviously, he's competitive.
Yeah.
Have you seen that kind of intensity before?
That's the most I've seen. He's so laid back, you don't see it obviously. He's not a screamer. He's not one of those get in your face kind of quarterbacks, and so you see a more of a laid back. But and he didn't scream and holler at anybody, but there was that look in his eye that I'm going to do what I have to do, no matter what it takes to win this game. And there were two very good quarterbacks on that field, and I think he held his own very well.
By the same token, in the defensive side of the ball, you're not used to seeing a defensive lineman in the top three tackles in a game. Jamal Davis looked like he was playing in another plane.
Yeah, Jamal just continues to chase ball. He's got great speed. He's got great first step. He's got great effort. He doesn't take any plays off. And I think he had 3 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, whether it be a sack or a tackle for loss. He's just always around that ball. And he gives great effort. And when you have his kind of talent at a defensive end position, you're going to be around the ball a lot and most likely make things happen. So we're real pleased with his effort and the job that he has done. It was pretty amazing. But I think John Lako was our leading tackle. You like your linebackers to be right up there, and of course Gilbert's always right up there. John Lako up there. Bell did not play. We hope we can get him back this week. We won't discuss injuries, but he did not play last week, and he's a key to our defense. A key.
Coach, you mentioned 4 straight wins from last year.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things you kept pretty consistent in terms of 30 to 35 on
Right.
Do you think that helps you guys to obviously improve in terms of 35 on Does that play a role?
Yeah, it does. It's part of it. I mean, I think Akron has always been 50-50 in this game. regardless, since the wagon wheel was offered, I think we have more wins. So if it looks back to how many times we played, but as far as the wagon wheel, we're one game ahead now. So I think it's been a factor, but I think both teams have won that rivalry. I think it's that plus others. I think you've got to get this team where this team takes this university to bowl games, and where we have winning seasons, and where we pull off a Pitt or a Northwestern, win or something like that. Those type of things you can sell your players on the experience is going to be something. They want to go play for a winner. They want to go play for a team that's going to play for a conference championship like last year. They want to play for a team that's going to a bowl and those kind of things. But winning your rivalry to those local kids will mean something extra. It's just been a pretty even. It's been pretty even over the years. But 4 in a row, I think it gives you a little bit of a recruiting edge.
And Joe's on the field, so he knows about it up in the booth.
Yeah.
I mean, we could kind of look and see it pretty bad. But
Well,
it's hard to sense it until I left after the
Yeah,
game.
well,
And, I mean, that really
it was
did have a big
with the first half, the wind was very strong, but it was all one directional. You knew exactly which way to punt and which way to throw, and you weren't going to make much happen deep one way, or you were going to punt. In the second half, the rains came and it began to swirl, and it going sideways half the time. So you didn't know how that would affect anything. And then it would change and go hard, and it wasn't light. It was hard. It was hard, and so you couldn't accomplish much as far as consistency when throwing the ball. And then one of the things that we have some receivers. We throw the ball downfield a good bit, and that became very difficult to do. We hit a couple of plays, but the weather was bad on both sides, and so those are days in Northeast Ohio where you like to be able to run the football, and I'm thinking we need to make sure we can run that football. That's why I think the turnaround play of the game was clearly Cato's 55-yard touchdown run. They had scored before the half after I called timeout, thinking we're going to go for a block punt. And the defense, who has held them to about 147 yards at that point, 144 yards gave up 76 yards in 3 plays after that. And I felt like, what the heck did I just do? I could have got them off the field. But if I was thinking like that, I would not have thrown the ball on 1st and 10 and got an interception. I'm trying to think, what, this team's going to score. We better go. Offensively, we better keep the pedal to the metal and don't play not to lose. And so, but it was one of those games where it came down to a lot of different things. And the wind, you never knew how the weather was going to get in the second half too. If it got real bad, and it was hard. There weren't but 2 scores in the second half. But anyway, the key I was getting back to is they scored. The biggest play was that play of Cato, because they had scored going into the locker room. Then they come out and score again. Momentum now has completely flipped, because they've scored 14 points instead of 10-3. It's 17-10. And we have to be the next team to score in a day like that. And then Cato just makes that marvelous run. And I think that got things back to where it needed to be for us to be in a position to win.
Yeah, DeAndre White in that goal line situation. Does he kind of separate himself from the other freshmen?
Well, only because I say only because I think only because he's clearly right now the number one young guy. Because he graduated December, was here for all spring, and had a ton of reps. You get a lot of scrimmaging in the spring, and he got scrimmaged a lot. We know what he can do. We've had tough ball games, and you hadn't had a chance to play a lot of freshmen. So we have, Devin Floyd and Abraham Alsey are big running backs. One's 220, the other's 250. Keandre White is 230, and he gives us some power in some of our inside runs. But he's clearly the third back right now, and Jamarlin Suggs out of Akron East. He's much more like Sands. With Keandre, you get a different type of back, and one you hope could run that short yardage on the goal line. Because he ran over a defensive lineman, with his own body weight, which not sure that Van Edwards at 200 pounds would have done, or even Sands or Suggs.
So is that still, excuse me, it's a running game? You had a couple of runs.
But not enough. Not enough. We don't have enough explosive runs. But and we're going to, we're going to work and work and work. Now we lost our best offensive lineman for the year. We're not going to talk about injuries because we put somebody else there. But Brandon Council was an awful good tackle for us there, and we had a couple of people we lost earlier for the year as they were fighting for position and never got a chance to earn it. Samples has lost. I think he may come back late in the year, but he was number one all spring. Lineman like Landon Foreman, he came in with a bad shoulder we didn't know about, and had to have shoulder surgery. And so we lost those. So, but yes, to me, the weather's not going to get better later on in the year. And we've got to continue to work on and find out what we can do. And we're very close, but we're not quite close enough to have the type of running attack that we want. You know, we got 140 yards, I think, of rushing attack. On Saturday, we could, you know, I still think 175 to 200 gets you in the range. But you've got it. We had no runs except by the quarterback over 7 yards. And that's going to get you in trouble. I think you got to have some explosive runs, and we got to continue to look at what we're doing.
You ever seen, I'm sure you've probably seen everything, but the 2 70-yard punts in the same game?
I don't know if I've ever seen that. 2 70-yard punts. And they went, I want to say they're in two different directions because the wind was swirling. And the bad thing was that was a potential loss of the game. That was a game changer right there. When they kicked it over Dre's head, he couldn't field it. Something you got to field this punt. They back us up, and we just punt it. Then the field goal is going to win the game, and it went over his head, and he was standing at 40 yards. But I think we kind of thought the wind was blowing the other way. It changed it so much, and he kicked it 15 yards over his head, and then it rolled down to the inside the 10-yard line, and that was a huge swing because all you're thinking about as a coach is, God, we got the wind in our face, or some kind with the wind anyway, and then we got to get a first down or so just to make sure before the end of about 3 minutes left in the game right there, and we've got to make sure they don't get it back with a minute left or 2 minutes left. And so but I think Cato made another big scramble on that series, and we had a nice run for a first down, or a swing pass for a first down. And but yeah, I don't know that I've seen 2 70-yard punts in a game, but I thought both punters most of the time did a good job of either rugby style kick, or using the wind to the advantage.
Can you talk a little bit what it was like in the locker room after that game? The players,
Well, we're coming off two conferences. This team is a great bunch of guys, a lot of upperclassmen, and a lot of high expectations they've placed on themselves. And you keep wondering how they're going to handle adversity. You know, you have a couple of tough losses. In Iowa State, we have to recognize that for what it is. You know, it was a good play against a very good team, you know. But a couple of tough losses against a couple of really probably better teams in our conference. And so not only is it the Rag and Wheel game, but it's a game that you just have to have. I think mentally you have to have it. And I mean, you talk about elation. I mean, I may have beaten the kids over. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff and been in a lot of robberies, but I came close to beating several of them to that wagon wheel. But it's funny. The young ones, they'd have no idea, because the wagon wheel, our Kent-Akron rivalry is a very local rivalry that people outside our community really wouldn't understand. Two schools that are so close to each other, and probably two schools that I know one makes fun of the other for being the certain type of school that someone is. One's kind of a city school, and one's got a college campus type town. It's just, I'm an outsider who moved here 7 years ago. I know what they talk about each other. I know and so there is some good rivalry there. And for Akron to win means a lot to those players. But what I was saying, the way our players ran down to get that wagon wheel, the young people began to see how important it is and how meaningful it is. And it's just a good reminder of how rivalries are in sports, and how important they are, and how important that we make them, and how important it is to win them. You tend to talk. You go into Acme or you go into a local store all year round, and they'll mention that Zip game, the Zip Kent State game. It'll be mentioned. It'll be talked about a little bit. And I think that's one of those things that you've got to keep in mind. I think it was exhilarating. It was great after the locker room, because I loved it. I have a really good group of senior guys, and they are going to appreciate later on in life much more than right at this moment, because we got a whole bunch of season left to play. They're going to appreciate the Northwestern win. They're going to appreciate 4 straight over Kent, and hopefully some more that we just keep on improving. We got a tough schedule. We got to just keep on improving and keep on going forward. I think at some point you have to ask yourself, our Mid-America Conference Championship opportunities are based on other people giving us an opportunity. If in a week or two that's a possibility, is there a 12th game on our schedule possibility? I have no idea, but I'm just wondering what that is, because then it becomes bowl eligible and stuff like that. But those will be questions that get answered on down the road, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess I don't want you to misunderstand me. It's not that he doesn't have the look. It's that I never quite noticed it. I never quite paid enough attention to see it. I think he's always been very competitive. I just noticed at that point in time when, because we couldn't throw deep ball very much, some of our running, so much of our offense was dependent upon him either running or throwing the football or scrambling or whatever. You kind of want, he was getting hit pretty good, and he's fighting and all that stuff, and you're always, and that's when I start watching a guy's eyes to see how they are, and you can just see the intent. So I don't know that he has not had it before, but I think it was much more obvious to all of us. And but I know that's what if that's the kind of demeanor he has to show every week, and it's not just the cool, calm, collected quarterback, but there needs to be a fierce, competitive desire to lift this team, if that's what it takes to lift this team on his shoulders, because a quarterback by design touches the ball every single time you're on offense. That's half the snaps. So he's got to be a person that is fiercely prideful of his ability to help this team win.